My name's Emily. I'm 22. And 9 days ago, my sister tried to destroy the insulin I need to stay alive. This morning, I watched her cry in court while the charges were read. For as long as I can remember, Madison has been the golden child. She's 5 years older, flawless in my parents' eyes. She could scream, skip class, even total a car, and they'd call her spirited. But me, if I forgot to check my blood sugar before dinner, I was careless and self-centered. The imbalance showed up everywhere. When Madison turned 16, she got a used Honda Civic worth $4. Lambe. I turned 16 and got a refurbished glucose meter. Dad patted my shoulder and said, "This is more important than a car. Emmy, you need this to live." Madison stood behind him, jingling her keys with a smirk. At 12, I needed an ER visit because my parents used the money saved for my insulin refills $1. $350 to send Madison on her school trip to Washington, D.C. That month, I rationed doses until my blood sugar spiked to 480. I woke in the hospital with IVs in my arm. Through the curtain, I heard Madison tell Mom, "Emily's just being dramatic. She always ends up fine." 2 years later, I got my first insulin pump. Insurance covered most of it, but my parents still owed toi, babe. For me, it meant safety. For Madison, it meant jealousy. She stomped around, furious that I got luxury tech, while she still had a flip phone. A week later, my pump alarmed, empty, at 200 a.m. When I checked, the reservoir had been cut open. I found the tubing stuffed under Madison's bed. When I confronted her, she rolled her eyes. "Relax. I just wanted to see what would happen." Mom's response, "Emily, and your sister's curious. Don't make it such a big deal." I told myself it didn't matter. I told myself she was just jealous. But each incident left scars no one else saw. Still, I wanted to believe things could change. Last Thanksgiving, it almost looked like Madison had just gotten a job interview. And for once, the spotlight wasn't on me or my diabetes. Everyone seemed focused on her. I let myself imagine we might sit at the same table without a fight. I wanted to believe we could be sisters instead of rivals. But hope is cruel when you give it to the wrong person. Because while I was daydreaming about peace, Madison was studying me. She memorized every tremor of my hands when my glucose dipped, every slurred word when I went low, the exact way my cheeks flushed when my sugars ran high. She practiced them like lines in a play. She wasn't jealous anymore. She was preparing. I should have seen the warnings the way she borrowed one of my glucose meters. The late-night fridge raids that weren't about food, but rehearsal. But I wanted to believe, and belief blinded me. What I didn't know was that Thanksgiving wasn't going to be the holiday that healed us. It was going to be the moment she set the stage for something darker. Something that would end with broken glass in the sink, my insulin gone, and my sister standing between me and survival. Thanksgiving should have been simple. Turkey, stuffing, a crowded table, the usual arguments about politics. But that year, something cracked wide open. Madison had been running her routine for months by then, faking dizziness, claiming she needed the same carb schedule as me, whispering to friends, "I think I might have reactive hypoglycemia." She even joined my online support groups, posting questions like she was one of us. At first, my parents didn't see it. They bought into her act. They paid for specialist visits that cost over $2. 0 inches a single month. Every result came back normal. But Madison always had an excuse. Maybe they tested me at the wrong time. Maybe it's proximity to Emily's insulin. And every time she collapsed in public, every time she demanded juice in a store aisle, my parents rushed to her side like she was the real patient. Meanwhile, I learned to handle my blood sugars alone in silence, because there was no room for my emergencies anymore. Thanksgiving dinner started the same way. Madison was already pale, eyes wide, waiting for her moment. Halfway through dessert, she clutched her stomach, gasped, and slid dramatically to the floor. "Low blood sugar," she cried, shaking like she'd practiced. Mom dropped her fork. Dad shouted for juice. Chaos spread. Relatives stood frozen, unsure what to do. But my cousin Ryan, home from college, spoke up. "Calm, sharp, funny," he said. "Because an hour ago, I saw her in her room eating an entire bag of candy." The room went silent. Aunt Karen, who's a nurse, stepped forward. "Let's test her now." She grabbed Madison's glucose meter and pricked her finger before anyone could object. The number flashed 95. Perfectly normal. Madison froze mid-shake. Her act shattered under the fluorescent kitchen light. Aunt Karen didn't stop. 10 minutes later, she tested her again. Still 95. No crash. No low. Just steady. Undeniable numbers. Everyone stared. Madison's fake tremors faded as quickly as they had appeared. That night, my parents went through her room. They found notebooks filled with detailed notes, my symptoms, exact timings, descriptions of hospital visits. She'd been documenting me like a science project. Even more disturbing, they found scripts she'd written for herself, when to shake, when to slur, how to time her episodes with my real ones. And in the back of her drawer, they found wrappers. Dozens of candy wrappers. When confronted, Madison screamed, "You don't get it. I'm invisible. Emily gets everything the hospital visits." The concern, the attention. I wanted you to worry about me for once. For once, my parent didn't fold. Dad's voice was stone. "You have 30 days to get your life together. If you can't, you're out of this house." Madison's face twisted with rage. "So you're choosing the defective kid over me?" She stormed out, slamming the door hard enough to rattle the pictures on the wall. For the first time, I thought maybe I was safe. Maybe my parents finally saw her cruelty for what it was. But I should have known better. Because Madison wasn't done. The next morning, I woke to a beeping alarm from my insulin pump. Empty. Impossible. I'd refilled it just hours before. Panicked, I ran to the fridge. The shelves were bare. Every vial, every backup pen, gone. Even my emergency glucagon kit was missing. Then I heard the faint clinking sound of glass. I rushed to the kitchen. Madison was standing by the sink, holding every single vial of insulin in both hands. Half the supply was already gone. Flushed down the disposal. She looked up at me. "Calm. Steady. If I can't have diabetes," she said, her voice like ice, "then neither can you." She dangled the last vials over the drain, one finger hovering near the switch. "You have about 6 hours before your organs start shutting down. Unless," her smile spread, "unless you tell Mom and Dad that you helped me fake it all. That you coached me." My throat went dry. My blood sugar was already climbing. Madison tilted the vials, letting them clink against the steel rim. "Choose quickly. Emily, your life, or your reputation." That was the moment I realized Thanksgiving wasn't the climax. It was just the prologue. The real disaster was only beginning. The disposal hummed beneath the counter, waiting to swallow what little future I had left. Madison's hand hovered above it. 3 vials clinking together like coins in a slot machine. "You've got maybe 6 hours before you collapse," she said, her eyes bright with something far worse than anger. 4. If I drop one more? I tried to steady my breathing, but my body was already turning against me. My blood sugar was rising fast. I could taste the metallic tang at the back of my throat, feel the dryness sticking my tongue to my teeth. "Madison," I whispered. "Please." Wrong answer. She flicked her wrist. One vial slipped, glass smashing against steel. The disposal roared, grinding medicine worth hundreds of dollars into nothing. "That's one gone," she said. "Now you've got less time." I backed toward the kitchen doorway, calculating. The landline was in the living room. My phone upstairs. If I could get past her. She saw it instantly. Her hand shot to the knife block. She held one up, not pointing at me, but at the 2 vials left. Don't even think about it. You run. I puncture both. The blade glinted under the kitchen light. Not aim at me. Aimed at my survival. My stomach twisted. Nausea. Early ketones. My body was already eating itself for fuel. I pressed a palm to the counter to stay upright. Do you know what happens without insulin? Madison asked. Like she was giving a lecture. Your liver dumps more sugar. Your blood turns acidic. Your cells starve while you drown in glucose. Her calm made me shake harder than the rising blood sugar. She wasn't guessing, she knew. She'd studied me long enough to narrate my decline. You're sweating, she said after a moment, tilting her head. That's new. Usually you just flush red. Must be the adrenaline. My legs wobbled. I forced myself upright. If I gave in? If I agreed to her demands, admit I'd helped her fake, she'd own me forever. You think they'll believe you? I asked. Voice hoarse. When they find me in a coma, when they see the vial smashed, you think that makes you the victim? Her lips twitched. I'll save you. I'll be the one who found her sick little sister and gave her the shot. I'll be the hero for once. I almost laughed. It was insane. But she meant it. The thirst clawed at me. I reached for the sink. She slid the knife across the counter with a screech, reminding me who held the power. You'll do what I say, she murmured. Admit you coached me. Practice it now. Word for word. She pulled out her phone, set it against the backsplash, and hit record. I tried to speak, but my voice cracked into nothing. She shoved a glass of water toward me. I drank it in seconds. Relief lasting only moments before the thirst returned. Sharper. Again, she ordered. Say it. I taught you. I forced out. Words, slurring. Not from lies, but from rising glucose. Louder, she snapped. I tried again. My tongue felt heavy. Each syllable sticky. She stopped the recording with a sigh of disgust. Useless. The nausea surged. I stumbled to the sink, dry heaving until bile burned my throat. Madison stood back, arms crossed, narrating. Confusion. Nausea. Small breathing. Classic. When the wave passed, I slid to the floor, back against the cabinets. The cold tile felt like mercy. Get up, she barked. I didn't move. Couldn't. My muscles trembled from dehydration. She crouched, phone back in her hand. Fine. We'll do it with nods. Yes, for each question. Her voice droned. Did you help me fake? My head lolled. A weak dip. Did you coach me? Another nod. Even she looked unconvinced. You're no good to me like this, she hissed. I need you sick enough to obey, but not too far gone. She pulled a syringe, drew a tiny amount from one vial. Just a taste, she whispered. Just enough to keep you alive, on my leash. The needle neared my arm. Then a sound, a knock at the door. We both froze. Through the window, I saw Mrs. Ine, Parker, holding a pie plate. She called. Everything all right in there? Haven't seen you two all morning. Madison's eyes widened. Panic cracked her calm. She yanked me upright, dragging me toward the back door. Make a sound, she hissed, knife flashing. And I swear I'll smash the last two. My chest heaved. I could barely breathe. But I knew one thing, Mrs. Parker wasn't going to walk away without answers. And that gave me the first sliver of hope I'd had in hours. Mrs. Parker's voice floated through the door, warm and casual. Emily Madison, I baked too much pie. Thought you could use a slice? To me, it sounded like salvation. To Madison, it sounded like threat. She pressed her hand over my mouth, her palm clammy. Stay quiet. Her whisper was venom. If you make a sound, I end this right now. She lifted the two remaining vials in her other hand letting the glass clink against the counter. My chest ached with the effort of holding still. My breathing had already grown shallow. Each inhale, quick and desperate. The early signs of ketoacidosis. Misses. Parker knocked again. Harder this time. Girls, everything. Okay in there. Madison forced a cheery tone. Calling out. We're fine, just tired from the holiday. Her voice cracked slightly. Mrs. Parker wasn't fooled. Emily. She called directly. Sweetheart? You didn't come out for the paper this morning? You always do. Madison's nails dug into my arm. She mouthed. Don't. But Mrs. Parker wasn't backing down. Let me just see her face. 1 second. That's all. Madison hesitated, panic flickering in her eyes. She needed to hide me, but also couldn't risk Mrs. Medicer. Parker making a scene. Finally, she dragged me toward the door. My legs barely held me. She cracked the door an inch. Mrs. Parker's sharp eyes darted past, catching me slumped and pale. Her expression hardened. Emily, have you checked your sugars? It was a simple question, but she said it with weight. She'd known me since I was 5. She'd babysat me through more lows than I could count. I nodded weakly, then deliberately touched my pocket. Empty. No meter. She saw. Her eyes narrowed. I'll go fetch my tea for nausea. Be right back. She smiled sweetly at Madison. 5 minutes. She turned on her heel, faster than I'd ever seen her move. Madison slammed the door, her mask cracking. She knows. She shoved me back into the kitchen, her voice pitched high. Fontique. She's going to call Mom and Dad, maybe even 911. Her hand shook as she lined up the vials on the counter. Fine. If I'm going down, you're going with me. She flicked the switch. The disposal hummed. She held 1 vial over it. This one's for every time they cared more about your numbers than my grades. She snarled. The vial slipped. Shattered. Gone. Now only 1 remained. My stomach cramped. Muscles seizing from dehydration. Pain knifed through me, sharp enough to jolt me upright. Madison watched. Fascinated. Never saw that in my research. Looks painful. Her calm returned. Too quick. Too rehearsed. She crouched in front of me, dangling the last vial like a prize. Say the words. Emily, admit you helped me fake it. And this is yours. Upstairs. My phone began to ring. The special ringtone I'd set for Mom. The sound sliced through the tension. Madison froze, eyes darting to the ceiling. 4 rings. Then voicemail. Her panic deepened. They'll come home if she calls again. Sirens echoed faintly in the distance. Mrs. Parker hadn't wasted time. Madison's hand trembled around the vial. She was cornered. Her decision was quick and cruel. She hurled the vial across the room. Glass shattered against the wall. Liquid splattering down the cabinets. The last of my supply destroyed. She smiled coldly. If I can't win, neither can you. But as she turned back to gloat, I managed my first small victory. While she'd been distracted by the door, I'd palmed the syringe she used earlier, the one with the partial dose she'd given me to keep me half alive. It had rolled under the counter, and I'd slid it into my waistband. There was still insulin inside. Not much, maybe 2 units, but enough to buy me time. The sirens grew louder, flashing red and blue against the curtains. Madison's face went pale. She bolted toward the back door. Too late. Paramedics burst through the front. Police behind them. Mrs. Parker right on their heels, clutching her spare key like a weapon. They found me crumpled on the floor, conscious but fading. They found the shards of glass, the knife on the counter, the disposal humming. They found Madison frozen by the door, caught between fight and flight. And in that moment, the golden child wasn't golden anymore. She was just caught, time bent in the ambulance. The siren was a straight line of sound. The The medic's voice cut through it like chalk on a board. Name Emily. Type 1. Yes. How long without Basil? I glanced at the clock on the wall. Pump emptied around 6:12 a.m. He nodded once. Fluids wide open. 2 liters. Check ketones. Start insulin per protocol. Cool liquid ran into my vein. Oxygen eased the tightness in my chest. The world sharpened by 1 notch. Pain, he asked. 3. I said. Fear wasn't on the scale. We pulled into the bay. Bright lights. Rolling wheels. Doors slamming. The smell of lemon cleaner and old coffee. Nurses took over with the rhythm of people who've done this 1,000 times. IV's good. Blood gas. CMP. Beta-hydroxybutyrate. Anion gap. Someone called. The numbers hit the screen. Too high. Too wide. But moving. You came in time. The nurse with the braided bun told me. Good. I wanted to tell her it wasn't timing. It was Mrs. Prate, Parker, and a stubborn syringe with 2 stolen units. But I only nodded. Mom arrived with red eyes and a tote bag she didn't remember packing. Dad held a paper cup and forgot to drink it. Neither said Madison's name. It floated between us anyway. Heavy and loud. I slept in short pieces while machines hummed. Woke to the click of my pump being reprimed. Slept again. Woke to new numbers. Lower. Safer. By afternoon, the fruit-sweet taste had faded. My breathing slowed. The room felt bigger, like it could hold more than crisis. Mom reached for my hand. We're here, she said. Her voice had the crackle of something burnt. Dad swallowed. We failed you. I stared at the drip. We'll talk when I'm steady. He nodded. We'll be here when you are. The detective came at dusk. Not TV tough. Careful tough. He pulled a chair close and kept his voice low. Emily. Feel up to a statement. I told him everything. The empty pump. The bare fridge. Madison by the sink with the disposal, humming. The knife. The video she tried to make me record. The single mercy dose meant to keep me coherent enough to obey. He took notes. Asked for times. Asked for words. Didn't flinch. Your neighbor's account matches, he said. So do the photos from the scene? And he paused. We secured Madison's phone. My stomach dipped. What's on it? Practice clips. Rants. Threats. She filmed herself rehearsing and filmed you declining. It's thorough. My laugh was a cough. She always liked evidence when it served her. Now it serves you, he said. We're filing for reckless endangerment, destruction of prescription medication, and coercion. Protective order is active as of this afternoon. Active. The word settled my shoulders a little. Night in a hospital is a different season. Dim hells. Distoncar. Beeps that argue and then agree. Mrs. Parker stepped in around 9 with a small potted violet and a smile that didn't pretend everything was fine. I come bearing contraband, she whispered, setting it on the sill. A plant, not sugar. He squeezed her fingers. You saved my life. She shook her head. You saved it. I just knocked on a door and refused to leave. Mom cried again, this time into Mrs. Parker's cardigan. Thank you. She kept saying, thank you. Mrs. Parker patted her back like she had all the time in the world. Next time, she said to me, you call me first. Even if you think it's small. Especially then. Okay, I said, and I meant it. Morning brought routine. Laps trending better. Insulin drip tapered. Sips of water that stayed down. Crackers that didn't turn to stones in my stomach. The social worker came with a clipboard and eyes that noticed everything. Do you feel safe returning home? I looked at Mom and Dad. Their faces carved by the last 48 hours. I looked at my hands. At the tape on my vein. With a lockbox, I said, and a restraining order, and a plan. Good. she said. Safety isn't just locks. It's agreements you keep. She slid pamphlets across the tray. Trauma counseling, family therapy, legal resources. You all start these. Today, if you can. Dad nodded. We will. Before discharge, the pharmacy team delivered new vials to my room. The nurse treated the bag like a crown jewel. Check labels. Check dates. She said. I did. Twice. My chest loosened. Dad set a small metal safe on the chair. Combination only, you know. He said. He'd already written the number on a folded paper and handed it to me. Backups in my wallet. Nowhere else? For the first time, I believed him. Home looked the same. The air didn't. The sale flyers still crouched on the table. The ceramic rooster timer stared at me from the stove. The sink gleamed. No glass. But I could still hear the grinding in my head. Mom steered us straight to the living room. We'll eat here for now, she said. Slow reclaim. We ordered soup. Dad read carb counts like he was learning a new language. Mom wrote them in a notebook like it could pin the world down. It wasn't normal, but it was honest. The detective called the next day. She made bail. He said, staying across town. Order says she can't contact you or come within 200 yards. If she violates it, call immediately. I thanked him and hung up. The fear didn't vanish, but it stopped pacing. That night, the nightmares came anyway. A humming sink, a hand over my mouth, vials falling like rain. I jolted awake at 3:07 a.m. The house was quiet. My pump hummed. My numbers were good. Still, I padded to the closet, spun the dial, and counted each vial. 10, 10 again. Not hers. I whispered into the dark. Not anymore. The next week became a list of firsts. First grocery run without looking over my shoulder. First morning dose at the kitchen table without shaking. First counseling session where someone finally used the words medical abuse and watched my parents flinch and then nod. In therapy, Dad said. I thought being hard on her would make her tougher. I thought I was protecting them both. You left me tough enough for me, I answered. Not cruel, just true. Mom cried. I kept telling myself Madison was spirited. I thought if I ignored it, it would pass. It didn't. I said, but we can start now. We wrote new rules on a page and taped it inside the pantry door. My insulin stays locked. Everyone learns low divided by high protocols. No one minimizes symptoms. If anyone feels unsafe, we leave. We call. We act. It felt like a child's poster. It also felt like a foundation. Aunt Karen visited with a grocery bag full of low snacks and a nurse's lecture that somehow didn't sting. You don't owe anyone your stability, she said, packing glucose tabs into clear bins. You manage it for you. Ryan texted from campus. Proud of you. Also, Aunt Karen terrifies me. I sent a photo of the violet on my windowsill and typed back, me too. By day 7, my energy returned in small coins. I walked the block with Mrs. Parker. She talked about birds and mail and nothing at all. The quiet felt safe. We stood on her porch and watched the sun sit low. What happens now? She asked. Court? I said, and then, whatever comes after. Whatever comes after, she echoed, like a blessing. That night, Dad set dinner at the dining table for the first time since the incident. Real plates, real forks, no TV, no rushing. We ate slowly. We talked about stupid things. The price of eggs, the neighbor's new mailbox, the way the ceramic rooster timer always points at 9:03 by accident. When we finished, Dad didn't clear the plates. He looked at me instead. We stand with you, he said. Not just today. Every day a line needs holding. I believed him, not because he said it, because he'd started living it. My phone buzzed with a court date. 2 weeks. A time and a room number. A judge's name I couldn't pronounce. I stared at the screen until the letters blurred. Then I took out my notebook and wrote 3 lines. She chose control. I chose survival. Now I choose the terms. I closed the cover. The page felt lighter than it should have. I wasn't ready to forgive. I was ready to finish. And that's where part 6 begins. In a courtroom that smells like dust and old paper, with a jury who doesn't know our history, and with me telling the truth in sentences as clean as numbers. Because justice isn't a twist. It's a decision. And I was done being the only one who hadn't made one. The courthouse didn't smell like justice. It smelled like dust, old paper, and coffee burned hours ago. I sat on the hard wooden bench while people shuffled past in stiff shoes. Bailiffs murmured. A clock ticked. My heart beat louder than all of it. At the defense table sat Madison, my sister, my golden child rival, my almost killer. She wore a blazer too big for her frame, hair pulled back like she was trying to play the part of a misunderstood woman. If strangers had walked in cold, they might have thought she looked fragile. But I knew better. The judge entered. The room rose. My knees trembled. But I stood. The prosecutor painted the picture. Empty insulin pump at dawn. Every vial missing. Madison by the disposal. Knife within reach. My blood sugar climbing toward a coma. The videos on her phone, her forcing me to confess. The notebook, documenting years of rehearsals. Symptoms studied like theater scripts. He called it premeditated cruelty. Her lawyer tried the opposite. Siblings fight. Words get twisted. My client panicked. This is a family misunderstanding. A misunderstanding doesn't smash 5 vials of medication worth thousands of dollars. A misunderstanding doesn't record threats and blackmail. A misunderstanding doesn't nearly kill your sister for attention. When it was my turn, my stomach churned, but I walked to the stand, swore in, sat down. State your name, the clerk said. Emily. I answered. Voice steady. The prosecutor leaned forward. Emily. What happens if a type 1 diabetic is denied insulin? You die. I said simply. No dramatics. No shaking voice. Just fact. He nodded. How close were you hours? I said. Maybe less. My blood was already turning acidic. He asked me to describe that morning. I told them about the pump alarming empty. The fridge bare. Madison at the sink with the vials. Her finger near the switch. Her words, if I can't have diabetes, then neither can you. Oh. Every juror stared at me. Not at Madison. At me. Her lawyer tried to poke holes. Isn't it true you exaggerate symptoms sometimes? No. I said. Isn't it true you get dramatic when you're low? I get incoherent. I corrected. That's biology. Not theater. The jury scribbled notes. When I stepped down, my parents squeezed my hands. Their faces carried years of guilt, but also something new: alignment. The deliberation didn't take long. Guilty of reckless endangerment. Guilty of destruction, of controlled medication. Guilty of coercion. The judge's gavel hit like a door slamming shut. Madison's shoulders hunched. For the first time, she looked small. Sentence: 2 years in state custody. Psychiatric evaluation. Mandatory counseling. Probation, after release. Not life. Not forever. But enough. As deputy led her out. Her eyes met mine. For a second, I braced for another smirk. Another line. Instead, she looked away. And just like that, the golden child spotlight finally dimmed. After court, life didn't snap back. It stretched. It reshaped. Mom and Dad started therapy with me. We faced the things we'd ignored. Dad admitted. I thought being hard on you would make you stronger. I thought if I didn't fuss, you'd tough it out. You left me tough enough only for myself. I said. Mom whispered. I kept telling myself Madison was just spirited, that it would pass. It didn't, I answered. But we can't pretend anymore. We taped our new family rules inside the pantry door. They weren't pretty, but they were ours. Mrs. Parker came by with soup and a smile sharper than steel. She'll be gone for a while, she said. But if she so much as sends a letter, you call me before you call anyone else. I hugged her hard. You're family now. She laughed softly. Always have been. The nightmares still come. Some nights I wake at 3:00 a.m. Check the lockbox. Count files twice. But each time I whisper the same words. Not hers. Not anymore. I walk further, every week. I eat breakfast at the table where she once staged collapses. I journal not just carbs and units, but thoughts and anger and, slowly, forgiveness, not for her, but for myself, forever hoping she'd change. Hope isn't weakness. It's just dangerous when you give it to the wrong person. The last time I saw Madison was in that courtroom. Deputies holding her arms, her gaze sliding away. No apology, no plea, nothing. And it was enough, because survival isn't just about beating death, it's about reclaiming life. Now, every morning, I bolus my dose and eat my breakfast. I listen to the hum of my pump and know this story is mine, not hers. People online who hear my story ask, how do you live with a sister who tried to kill you? My answer is simple, I don't. I live with myself. With parents learning to repair what they broke. With neighbors who refuse to look away. With scars that mark survival, not defeat. The golden child fell. The overlooked child survived. And survival is the one story she'll never rewrite. So now I'll ask you, what do you do when the person meant to protect you becomes the person you need protection from? May shows survival. And that survival was the justice she couldn't steal. Story 2. My girlfriend rated something on TikTok. She's dated and gave me a score of 1 out of 10. Guys, she laughed and said, my current victim, he is pitiful, to be sure, but his credit card is functional. He got me this Chanel purse. Yet he's fat, unattractive, and lacks charm. I just stated that was funny and laughed along with it. 2 weeks later, her mother is still pleading with her, and she is messaging me more than 99 times a day. She has been weeping uncontrollably and hasn't left her room in 2 weeks. Please pardon her. I don't want this linked to my primary account. Thus, it's a throwaway account. Please don't criticize my writing, since it's not flawless. I'm stating the truth about this story. Brief history. I'm three-year-old South Jerseyan Darren Morales. Dad worked in HVAC. Mom worked night shifts at the hospital. I covered the cost of community college for truck unloading and forklift repairs. It was brutal work. But it taught me that even when your hands are still greasy and your back hurts, honest labor has dignity. I got a junior operations position in a distribution facility after I graduated. I'm excellent with procedures and patterns. It turns out, I am able to identify ways to improve a disorganized warehouse right away. I build time and money-saving methods and identify inefficiencies that cost thousands of dollars. I had saved up enough money by the age of 29 to start my own firm, creating workflow solutions for nearby companies. Nothing glitzy. It works with barcode scanners, Excel spreadsheets, and clipboard-equipped strolling warehouses. I now have 4 workers, a Tacoma that I rent, and a mortgage on a little home in Collingswood. Not wealthy, but comfortable. No impulsive designer purchases, but a nice supper once a week. Come on. Claire. Moline Street. Like a high-end perfume? Everyone referred to her as Maddie Saint. Claire. Her salon bright extensions cost more than my vehicle payment. And she is 25. And a 45. Bah. 0000 follower. TikTok, micro-influencer. Her material was entirely performative, including Day in My Life, films that had 70% artistically placed coffee cups and 30% lip gloss application. Shopping hauls with clothing. She would return within 48 hours. And phony morning rituals that involved arranging the same props 15 times. Her grin was the particular cruel girl smile that gives you the impression that she's flirting until you discover that she's trying to figure out how much money she can take out of your wallet. When she gets tired of recording herself sipping smoothies and feigning to study business books, she uses her business model. Brand, sample boxes worth $12, promo codes that generate maybe $50 each post, and her parents' pool to recuperate. After 8 months of dating, everything fell apart. To be honest, at first, I enjoyed the attention. Having a lovely girl who is always shooting pictures made me feel more intriguing than I really am. She is definitely attractive in that high-maintenance Instagram sense. However, things quickly went awry. She insisted that I elevate everything: my automobile, my wardrobe, restaurants, and vacation spots. I was thinking incorrectly when she said, "Baby, it's all content creation. The memories are the return on investment." Massive red flag. I paid for every single bill. Meal, movie, coffee, and Uber journey in the meantime. When checks came, she possessed the superhuman ability to forget her wallet or notice that her card was performing strangely. Venmo requests to reimburse me would appear, but, for whatever reason, never be processed. 2 important facts. First, when she unintentionally left the product page open on my iPad for 3 days in a row, I spent $850 purchasing her a Saint Laurent Lulu bag. In order to explain that expenditure, she casually remarked how much she loved it, showed me pictures of celebrities with the same bag, hinted that it would be ideal for content production, and required 5 weekends of overtime. Yes. Very, very foolish. Yes. I was attempting to please her, even though I realized it was foolish. Second, Rafi Haddad, a former Army Reserve Union electrician who also happens to be a tremendous threat in group conversations, is my best buddy. Imagine the man who has the power to rewire your home and make you doubt your life decisions. Military humor that sounds like dad jokes until you learn there's a dagger in the punchline. Same afternoon, innocently, the night that altered everything began. At Romano's Trattoria, we're celebrating Maddie's acquisition of a small brand partnership and perhaps $200 worth of complimentary earrings. It's a partnership meal, so I accept the check. Apparently, it included paying for her business parties. With her thumb running at superhuman speed through comments and direct messages, she can't stop laughing at her phone like a hyperactive chihuahua finding coffee. Without looking up, she replies, "Just wait until you see what I posted earlier. 2 hours and 0,000 views. The engagement is crazy. I ought to have inquired about the topic of the video. Should have insisted on seeing it. However, I was worn out from resolving someone's inventory issue. I had also learnt to ignore the noise on social media. Every sound was the same. White noise, collaborations, engagement, and views. Movie night at my house later. We don't allow phones here. I wanted to maintain a certain amount of genuineness. Her alerts begin to sound like a slot machine jackpot. Buzz, buzz, buzz. She continues to grab it. Check her messages. And type her answers. Would you mind turning it to mute? Sweetie, I apologize. Tonight is simply getting out of control. The algorithm must be to blame. Then, as she attempts to turn it off, she presses the incorrect button, and my sound system suddenly begins to blast her TikTok. Bubble letters with a title overlay. I've rated the men I've dated from 1 to 10. No compassion. Hey, maybe I'm not in it, but my stomach sinks. This material may be outdated. Clips pass past quickly. With harsh but generalized criticism, different ex-partners get scores ranging from 4 to 8. My blood turns to ice when the movie freezes on a certain frame. I'm pictured from the worst possible angle, mid-snack on a sandwich. Not sucked in is the stomach. Crumpled t-shirt with thinning hair. As the transitional music builds, the image freezes. Huga. Venomous messages. Emerge as text overlays. 1 in 10 victims at the moment. Maddie's voiceover goes on, her laughter scarcely restrained. All right. So, this one is very pitiful. But he never questions anything, and his credit card works. He got me this even though he is obese. Unattractive. Without charisma. And dressed like he shops at gas stations. Cut to her clutching the Emmy-winning Saint Laurent purse. So? Darren. Thanks for the 2,850. You know, sometimes you take one for the team. Automatically. Comments appear. Grab that bag and dip. Girl. Make him dry. Stop. Queen. He seems to have a melancholy, cheese-like scent. The bite of the sandwich. I'm dead. Sis. Get her some cash. Even ugly males need to be loved. Too late. Maddie swoops for her phone. I heard every word. I saw everything. And experienced every remark as if it were a physical blow. This is what most likely kept me sane. I didn't scream or run away. Rather, I took the most perplexing action imaginable. I chuckled. Sincere belly laugh. As if I had just heard the greatest joke ever. I said in a very composed voice. That's actually pretty funny. Babe. Excellent satire. You did a fantastic job with the persona, clearly anticipating an explosion that never materialized. She blinked like a bewildered reptile beneath a heat light. She stumbled. It's not, she said. No. Really. Excellent editing and a high production value. The timing of the sandwich was hilarious. I yawned and stretched. What would you want to see next? We sat in strange stillness as the film ended. She continued to sneak looks at me, as if I were a ticking time bomb. She excused herself from the early morning and departed at around 1100. 10 minutes after her car pulled away. Rafi's truck lights illuminated my yard. He was dropping off a circuit breaker and found me looking blankly at a spreadsheet. You look like someone ran over your dog, he remarked. What happened? I told him everything. The video. Comments. Bag. Current victim label. He listened without interrupting. An expression getting darker with each detail. 30 seconds of complete silence. Just processing. Then in that particular tone, meaning someone's about to get educated. So, we're going to teach Miss Influenza here. The difference between follower counts and real-world consequences. First rule from Rafi, delivered while installing my circuit breaker. Don't feed her any drama calories. If I blow up, it becomes content. If I confront her directly, she captures my breakdown and makes me into her next viral moment. The internet loves a man having a public meltdown, especially when a pretty girl can frame it as proof of his instability. You go nuclear. She wins, he said, trying my outlets. She transforms you, become the insane ex-boyfriend who couldn't take the joke. In her victim tale, you turn into the bad guy. We thus made the decision to pretend to be absolutely dead while organizing a more complex move. After 8 months of dating someone who was always talking about herself, I shared what I knew about Maddie's life. She basically lived off of complimentary restaurant meals, borrowed boutique clothing that she would return, and parental support as a clout parasite. Her father had 3 used luxury automobile stores where he sold 5-year-old BMWs to middle-class consumers who wanted to seem affluent. People who believed shiplap was a personality attribute bought expensive houses from her mother. School goes too slowly for entrepreneurs. So, Maddie left marketing midway through her junior year. She had believed that she could forego schooling and become well-known only by virtue of her beauty, although she had a respectable number of followers. Engagement had been dropping for 6 months. Only when she staged partner drama, shared contentious opinions, or flaunted pricey presents that someone else had purchased did she experience surges. Small company owners that I had assisted with workflow design and inventory management made up my professional network. Nothing glitzy. Just sincere devotion, based on tangible outcomes. You remember who made it happen when your inventory shrinkage decreases by 30% and your order fulfillment increases by 50%. Her oxygen was access. She couldn't breathe without it. I was able to map her routine with military accuracy thanks to Rafi. Every Sunday brunch is held at Café Lorette, with the same corner window table, ring light blazing, and avocado toast being prepared for 45 minutes. Luke's Nail Salon offers fresh content every Thursday, including close-up videos of nail art that cost more than most grocery budgets, times a week. She would pick up armfuls of clothing from the try-on hauls at the Sienna store, record her posing for them, return everything within 7 days after tagging the boutique to gain publicity. She would contact managers at different restaurants on random nights and offer prospects for cooperation, bringing up follower numbers rather than making payments. I called my network in a kind manner. I simply reminded them of how I had benefited their businesses and stated that I was removing myself from anything that was interfering with my personal life. There was no conspiracy or deception. Most did not require a thorough explanation. They had previously dealt with Maddie. Under their corner window section, Café Lorette unexpectedly found significant plumbing problems that would take at least a month to fix. The wait list remained inexplicably full, despite the manager offering alternative tables for popular time slots. Luke Nail Salon created an unexpected wait list. So sorry. It's completely booked for 6 weeks. We can do Tuesday morning at 9:00 a.m. Tuesday mornings didn't work for content. Wrong lighting. Followers weren't active. Sienna Boutique updated their return policy to 48 hours maximum and added a clause, no returns on items featured in social media content. Meanwhile, I documented everything like the world's most meticulous accountant. Screenshots of forgotten wallet conversations, Venmo requests that never got fulfilled, restaurant receipts where I clearly paid for both meals, timestamps showing expense requests and repayment promises. Rafi dubbed my Google Drive folder the evidence locker, saying, "She keeps stepping on rakes and we're just collecting them." His daily motivation text, "Remember, brother, she literally called you her current victim. We're just moving the noose away from your neck and letting her hang herself." By Wednesday of the first week, the cracks were already showing in her perfectly curated digital life. "Babe, something weird is happening," she said, calling me during my lunch break. Lorette said there's a burst pipe under my table. My table, I've been sitting there every Sunday for 8 months. How does a pipe just randomly burst under my specific table? I made sympathetic noises while eating a sandwich at my desk. That's really weird. Baby. Infrastructure problems? I guess. Have you tried that new place across town? Corner Cafe. I heard they have good lighting. She posted a pouty Instagram story about when your favorite brunch spot betrays you with a photo of the construction signs around her former table. The engagement was noticeably lower than usual. Her followers didn't really care about her infrastructure problems. Her Thursday nail appointment got canceled with less than 24 hours notice. We're completely booked. So, sorry. We had an unexpected rush of wedding season bookings. Lux's receptionist was apologetic but firm. No availability for weeks. Maddie sent them a lengthy direct message about brand partnership opportunities and the importance of maintaining relationships with content creators who provide valuable exposure. They replied with a cute beige heart emoji and radio silence. Friday brought the email from Sienna Boutique explaining their updated return policy. Maddie was absolutely furious because she'd already filmed an extensive haul featuring a YSL-inspired handbag, 3 dresses, and a leather jacket that she'd planned to return after just one quick try on Reel. "This is ridiculous," she fumed, forwarding me the email. "I've been promoting their stuff for months. I've probably brought them thousands of dollars in sales. And now they're trying to change the rules." I read the email carefully. It was professionally worded, explained the changes as necessary for inventory management, and applied to all customers equally. Nothing personal, nothing targeted. Just business. Maybe they're having cash flow issues. I suggested, small businesses have to be careful about inventory. Every time one of her usual spots became unavailable, I was right there with supportive boyfriend energy. Never accusatory. Never suspicious. Never suggesting that anything was orchestrated. Just helpful, problem-solving, and emotional support. It's probably just a rough patch. Baby, these things happen in waves. Let's order some Thai food and have a cozy night in instead. In her mind, I was being the perfect boyfriend again. Supportive. Understanding. Ready to pay for takeout when her content creation plans got disrupted. Raffi and I moved into phase 2. Not just cutting off her access to free stuff, but setting professional standards she couldn't possibly meet. He called this strategy raising the floor. If all her business interactions suddenly required actual contracts, deadlines, and accountability, she'd lose the wiggle room that her entire lifestyle depended on. Through a coffee roasting company, I'd helped optimize their supply chain management. Maddie received an offer for her first legitimate paid collaboration in months, $400 for 2 Instagram posts and 1 TikTok video, complete with a proper contract that included FTC disclosure requirements, specific deliverable timelines, usage rights, and a standard no fraud clause prohibiting fake followers or manipulated engagement statistics. She signed the contract immediately because it represented actual money. More than she'd made from her last 6 brand partnerships. Combined, the coffee company was legitimate, professional, and had worked with dozens of influencers before. This wasn't a setup or a trap. It was just a real business, expecting real professional behavior. Then she promptly missed every single deadline. The contract required her first post within 5 business days. She posted it on day 7 with a caption that didn't include the required FTC disclosure hashtags. When they politely asked her to fix it, she argued that hashtags ruin the aesthetic and suggested they trust her audience to understand its sponsored content. The second post was supposed to go up exactly 1 week after the first. She posted it 10 days late using footage she'd filmed for a different brand 6 months earlier, just with different product labels awkwardly edited in. The lighting didn't match. The coffee cups were clearly different brands, and she was wearing the same outfit in photos that were supposedly taken weeks apart. The coffee company, with my quiet guidance on professional standards, issued a formal breach notice. They didn't demand money back or threaten legal action. They simply terminated the contract, requested that she remove the post that violated FTC guidelines, and politely declined to work with her again. It wasn't scandalous or dramatic, just professional consequences for unprofessional behavior. She vented to me constantly about how everyone suddenly has impossible standards, and no one understands that content creation is an art, not a factory job. I delivered what might be the most honest line in this entire story. Deadlines aren't personal, Maddie. They're not against you specifically. They're just deadlines. She stared at me like I'd spoken in a foreign language. I honestly didn't expect this part to become so cinematic. But apparently, when you humiliate people publicly, they remember. Remember Jace Mendis, the personal trainer she'd rated 8 out of 10 for his Valines and motorcycle. Turns out he's broke, but proud. Works 3 jobs to pay off student loans, and has 0 patience for people who think money determines human worth. I sent exactly 1 anonymous email from a burner account created at the library. No threats. No doxing. Just a link to her rating video, and thought you might want to see that you're still being used for content. Jace went completely nuclear. His response video, titled, "So I'm Content Now," was a masterclass in controlled fury. Genuinely angry, but focused and articulate, making him seem credible rather than unhinged. She rated me an 8 for the abs, but apparently a 0 for my wallet. He said, looking directly into camera, "Cool. Since we're sharing private information for entertainment, here are the text messages where she demanded I buy her a tennis bracelet to keep up appearances with her friends." He proceeded to show screenshots, including her exact words, "I need to look like I'm with someone who can afford me if we're going to be seen together at Sarah's party. The bracelet doesn't have to be real, it just needs to look expensive." He then methodically undermined her credibility by making Venmo requests for urgent mail appointments and teaching a graduate seminar in public relations warfare. "I worked overtime at 2 different gyms to pay for dates with someone who rated me, like meat for her online friends," he concluded. "But at least I received an 8 out of 10 for my abs." He also found screenshots of her asking him to lie about the cost of his motorcycle and restaurant receipts, where she had ordered expensive items and then forgotten her wallet, after half of the comments attacked her for being manipulative. Others began sharing dating horror stories about influencers who demand money in exchange for the right to appear in their content. Tyler Clean, the charming but uninteresting college boyfriend who is now married and has a 3-month-old, followed. He worked double shifts to buy you a necklace while you told people online. He was cheap and boring. He was 21 years old and paying for his education when you insisted that he spend textbook money on jewelry. Get a real job. Instagram moms don't waste their time defending their men. His wife posted a nasty Instagram story that was screenshotted all over the place. I was interviewed for a feature on the ethics of converting relationships into content without consent, City Metro, since I had consulted for marketing agencies and the quote repost cycle started right away, spreading across mom blogs and women supporting women pages that suddenly decided financial manipulation wasn't very feminist. I printed my comment next to a screenshot of Maddie holding the saint/Poply comment. Lauren Bagg, saying, current victim. The internet rewards drama over character development. There are usually consequences when someone's business model depends on humiliating people who trust them. The internet is becoming more educated, according to Raffi. And the most devastating blow didn't come from social media backlash or ex-boyfriends with grievances. Maddie's following fell from 45,000 to 32. 0 inches 36 hours. Brand partnerships vanished. And she disabled comments because every video was inundated with rate this content 1 out of 10 and current victim energy. It came from her own parents, who began questioning me about our relationship after reading the City Metro article. Her mother called me one Thursday night, crying on the phone, and said they were unaware that she had been using me as a personal ATM. We thought you were love bombing her, her mother admitted through tears. Because she told us you insisted on paying for everything and got upset when she tried to contribute. They had believed that I was the one forcing costly gifts on her to keep the relationship going. That I was some sort of older guy trying to buy affection from a younger woman. She gave the impression that you were in charge of her money. The following day, I sent them a zip file containing screenshots because I wanted them to know the truth about what their money was enabling. Not out of malice or desire to harm Maddie. Months of one-sided transactions are displayed on bank statements. She promised to reimburse me for dinners and our text exchanges. But she never did. She would send Venmo requests but never fulfill them. Screenshots of her using my credit card information to shop online. 2 hours after opening that zip file, her father gave me a call. We've been supporting what we assumed was her side business. But now I see we've been funding her. Treating people like garbage, he said, his voice tight with controlled anger. I owe you an apology. The financial repercussions were severe and swift. Her allowance, which I found out was $1,800 a month for business expenses, was immediately taken away. They co-signed the luxury apartment lease, which included a 30-day notice period to vacate and an immediate freeze on the credit cards associated with their family account. The payment for her BMW lease. Either start paying yourself or return the keys by Friday. Like a smoke detector with a dead battery. My phone began to buzz. 99 or more text messages a day. Occasionally more. It was like watching someone's whole worldview fall apart in real time as her messages developed over the course of the following week. Can we talk on the first day? All of this is becoming exaggerated. My parents are acting completely out of control on day 2. They have no idea how business partnerships operate. Day 3. This month, I am unable to pay my rent. Until my next brand deal clears. Can you spot me? Day 4, just respond to me. Please. Why are you treating me this way? It was intended to be a humorous video on day 5. I didn't take those things seriously. You know, I haven't eaten today. Day 6. The grocery store declined my card. I'm shaking uncontrollably on day 7. Please pardon me. I'll do anything. This is where I have to be absolutely honest about my own moral limits. The last thing I wanted was to psychologically damage her. I wanted her to suffer the proper repercussions for her inappropriate behavior, but I wasn't prepared to step over the line into cruelty. Rafi helped me stay grounded throughout this stage. Brother, you're not playing God. She was avoiding reality by using cheat codes, which you just disabled. Abuse is not what that is. For those who are required to work for a living, those are simply the default settings. However, It broke through all the preparation and online justice when her mother called me on day 8, her voice trembling, and she expressed her sincere concern that Maddie might harm herself. The line is that consequences become dangerous at that point, rather than instructive. I promised her mother that I would speak with Maddie, but only if she was truly prepared to listen and not to be coerced. With flawless hedges, a circular driveway that winds like a golf course fairway, and enough space to accommodate 3 typical families, the St. Clair house is one of those colonial revival monsters. It was dead silent when I got there. When her mother answered the door, she appeared to have aged 5 years in the previous week. She pointed to the stairway, hands trembling a little, dark circles under her eyes. All she said was, "She's upstairs. Thank you for coming." Maddia's bedroom had changed into a scene from a crime scene to a cave. Everything appeared gray and lifeless due to the artificial twilight created by the heavy curtains drawn tightly against the afternoon sun. Every surface was covered with cold plates of uncooked food. It was obvious that her parents had been urging her to eat. Towels and pillowcases were covered in makeup that looked like abstract art. Tissues poured out of wastebaskets in mountains. The unmade bed appeared to be a catastrophe. Pillows on the floor and covers knotted into knots. I had never seen her look so authentically rough. A disheveled bun of hair held in place with what looked like a rubber band. No makeup. Red and swollen eyes from crying for days. She was dressed in yoga pants that were stained and an oversized college sweatshirt that had seen better days. Her posture and face showed no signs of performance for the first time since I'd known her. No sense of lighting or angles. No regard for her appearance or the impression she was giving off. Just someone who was still trying to understand what had happened after hitting a brick wall at 90 miles per hour. She started apologizing, explaining, justifying, and making promises right away. She spoke in a breathless rush, as if she was worried that if she stopped talking, I would leave. "I'm very sorry. I didn't intend for it to get this bad. The content was intended to be humorous. Those videos are produced by everyone. You wouldn't really see it." I thought. The remarks became excessive. I intended to remove it. My parents are going overboard. I can make this right. I am able to correct it. Don't hate me. Please. I'll do anything. I stopped her by raising my hand. Say it simply and clearly after taking a breath, taking a trembling breath. She tried again. More slowly this time. I took advantage of you. For your amusement. I publicly humiliated you. I believed that by acting like a monster, I would gain views and followers. For a few minutes, we sat in silence. The only sounds coming from outside were the distant hum of the air conditioner and the occasional passing car. I assured her that, as a human being, I could forgive her. Humans are fallible. Individuals harm one another. Humans develop and learn. However, I was unable to stay her boyfriend. She didn't work with me to create the content. Her financial safety net was not me. We weren't re-establishing a romantic connection. She had to make amends with herself and the other people she had burned along the way if she wanted to rebuild anything. I advised her to locate a therapist and show up for the sessions. Get a real job with real duties and real repercussions. Put less emphasis on fame and more emphasis on being helpful. Find a way to support herself instead of relying on others to fund her public persona. She began to cry. "What do I do about the internet? How do I make this go away?" I responded. "You log off completely and let it die naturally. You're addicted to people watching you. But attention isn't actually food or shelter or human connection. Find something real to be good at instead of trying to be good at being seen." She smiled and continued to cry. Making commitments to improve oneself, grow, and change. Promises made during emotional breakdowns are typically merely attempts to stop the immediate pain rather than sincere commitments to change, which is why I don't accept them from people who are in crisis. I informed her that unless it was specifically about making amends to people she had harmed, we would not communicate. No friendship. No communication. No inquiry about her well-being. Make a clean break. Rafi was waiting in my driveway with 2 cups of coffee and a knowing look on his face when I returned to my truck. "How'd it go?" "Morality, man. She's broken," I replied. I'm not just having a bad day, I'm truly broken. Good. He handed me a coffee and said, "To be completely clear, I'm not Batman. And this isn't a movie. I'm a warehouse operations nerd who just so happened to learn about pressure points in human psychology. Sometimes people need to break before they can build themselves into something better. You showed mercy. Now we finish the job." The retaliation consisted of paperwork, professional boundaries, and natural consequences with a dash of poetic justice as opposed to explosions, public humiliation, or anything that would land me in jail. Step 1. Do you recall Sienna Boutique's updated return policy? Maddie had filmed that extensive haul, which included 3 dresses, a leather jacket, and a handbag inspired by YSL, as part of what she claimed was a brand collaboration. The new 48-hour return window left her with $690 worth of merchandise that she had budgeted to return. And she spent 20 minutes arguing with the store manager, going so far as to yell, demanding to speak to the owner, threatening to post negative reviews, and finally offering to make it worth their while if they'd bend the rules. She had tagged them extensively, mentioned them in her captions, and then attempted to return everything after posting the content. She called me crying and pleading for help, saying she would reimburse me as soon as her next brand deal came through. This happened the same week her car payment was due, and her parents had frozen her credit cards. The manager remained firm with courteous professionalism. Store policy was store policy. The second step was the coffee collaboration breach notice becoming official and public, and they posted a courteous but firm statement on their social media accounts. I calmly said, "I'm not your bank anymore. Maddie, you're going to have to figure this out yourself." She hung up. We're moving forward with creators who understand the importance of deadlines and FTC compliance. No names were given, but everyone in the local influencer scene knew exactly who they meant. It was the opposite of clout. Public evidence that she couldn't handle basic professional responsibilities. We've ended our partnership with a content creator who failed to meet contractual obligations and professional standards. In the meantime, a job posting surfaced for a receptionist position at a warehouse part supplier I occasionally consult for. The work was simple, and other brands began to distance themselves from her because no one wants to work with someone who has a reputation for missing deadlines and breaking advertising regulations. Starting pay was $16 per hour with health benefits. After 90 days, I sent her resume because I'm not really evil and everyone deserves a chance to earn an honest living. They called her for an interview the following day, but she didn't show up. Her duties included answering phones, filing paperwork, greeting customers, and basic data entry. They didn't reschedule. Step 3 was completely Rafi's idea, and it was diabolically perfect. We set up a small charity fundraiser at Corner Cafe for a local youth sports program that actually needed equipment and uniforms. When they called to find out what had happened, she explained that she'd had a panic attack about working in an ugly industrial building and couldn't handle the aesthetic trauma of being associated with warehouse work. Several of the small business owners she had previously irritated, attempted to use, or mistreated during her attempts at collaboration, were on the invite list. Rafi was in charge of most of the coordination and was hilariously brutal. He has a talent for saying scathing things that sound like jokes until you give them some thought. Here's to honest work and people who actually contribute something to their communities, he said as he stood up with his coffee cup at one point during the evening. You are invisible if your job description is being viewed tonight. There was a knowing laugh in the room. No one needed to explicitly explain the reference for people to understand it. Her mother sent me a lengthy, frantic email 2 days later. They had nothing at all to do. Maddie was subtly but firmly barred from the majority of the locations where she shot her videos. The vehicle was repossessed. The lease for the apartment was canceled. Despite applying to numerous retail and food service positions, she was unable to pass interviews without bringing up her experience, creating content, and stating why the position was beneath her brand. That's exactly what her mother said. She needs help, and we can't provide it anymore. Could you possibly help coordinate something that looks responsible and mature? We're begging you. In other words, they were pleading with me to give her a boost. This is my response. And while it was undoubtedly calculated, I don't believe it was cruel. Consider it an organized course of study for maturing accountability to the public. In a single, unedited, makeup-free video, Maddie would publicly apologize to all of her ex-boyfriends and to anyone she had made fun of for financial gain. No dramatic crying. No dramatic makeup removal. No filters or ring lights. These are the exact words she would use. For content and money, I exploited people. I was totally mistaken. My actions have no justification. Darren is not a victim. He's a decent man I disrespected for views and entertainment. She would specifically call me out and advise her female followers not to treat relationships like business dealings or to take advantage of men financially. Monetary compensation? She would sell the Saint Leaven. Lauren bags herself and donates all of the money to a local nonprofit organization focused on digital wellness that educates teens about the psychological tricks used by social media companies and helps them set reasonable screen time limits. Without providing any insight into her personal development or lessons learned, she would publicly display the donation receipt, make personal reparations directly. She would apologize in private. Handwritten letters to Tyler and Jace, without any qualifiers, justifications, or attempts to downplay her actions. During their relationships, she would offer to pay back them for any gifts, meals, or other costs she insisted on. She would send them evidence and donate comparable sums to the nonprofit if they reject the funds. Actual work. For 90 days in a row, she would find and keep a real job. Work in retail, food service, reception, or anything else honest. And she would keep all of her social media accounts completely private. No content about the comeback arc. No subtweet regarding personal development or lesson learned. Nothing about her journey that goes behind the scenes. Simply clock in. You get to work. Clock out. And do it again. Silence. Forever. After the public apology, she never brought me up again, either positively or negatively, and she made no mention of my past relationships or the lessons she had learned from them. No clues or oblique allusion. She would make me a living, breathing ghost in her story. In precisely 2 sentences, I sent her mother this list via email. I'll give City Metro a statement stating that she is genuinely trying to change if she honestly and fully completes everything on this list. Act as though I don't exist if she doesn't. A whole week was spent talking, crying, fighting, and having what must have been some really tough talks about accountability and repercussions. Then it did happen. At 9:00 a.m. on a Tuesday, the apology video went live. When the majority of her surviving fans would be looking at their phones. No ring light, no filters, no teary eyes, and no script at all. She was sitting without the typical decorative staging in what looked to be her childhood bedroom. To be honest, it was sturdy. Without attempting to improve her image or downplay the harm she had caused, she stated all the unpleasant details. She stated unequivocally that I wasn't her victim and said my name. She was awakened by me. She told her followers that it was unethical to treat people like ATMs and that financial manipulation was a kind of abuse. There was a divide in the comments between those who believed it was just another performance and those who believed she was truly sorry. However, the people who mattered, her parents, my close friends, the business owners she had burned, and the ex-boyfriend she had degraded, saw it. On the same day, she put the Saint Laurent bag up for sale on a posh consignment website. It sold for $2. 150 inches, 48 hours. Although the depreciation was quite disheartening, luxury items quickly lose value after being used. She shared a screen grab of the receipt for the donation to Camden Digital Wellness. A nearby nonprofit that I had looked into and verified was authentic. Rafi left a comment using his actual account. Well done. Continue. Avoid reverting to foolishness. A week later, she was learning SKU codes for industrial fasteners while standing behind the counter at Parts Pro Supply. Sporting a navy blue company polo shirt, she rang us up professionally, thanked us, and made appropriate small talk about our project without bringing up social media, content creation, or her previous life, when Rafi and I stopped by to buy some bolts we didn't really need. There are no cameras present. No content is produced, just an honest worker, getting paid honestly. 2 weeks later, I received a follow-up comment from City Metro. I only gave them one quote. Now she's working on it. Let her do it on her own. After that, I stopped talking altogether and returned to repairing a local bakery's malfunctioning inventory tracking system. The retaliation is that, not a public devastation, Hollywood explosion, or anything that would be considered dramatic. A systematic destruction of an unsustainable way of life in favor of a dull, secure, genuine one that demanded real work and offered real benefits. Indeed, it forced them to respectfully plead with her mother for my assistance in climbing out of the hole she had dug. I offered reasonable but firm terms. She agreed to them and did as she was told. The cruelty, if you will. It was making her go through normal adult life at normal pace, without continual praise or outside approval. Update, the most amusing aspect. 6 months later, on a lovely Saturday afternoon in the late spring, Rafi and I are grilling hamburgers in my backyard. He's telling me about a project in which the previous electrician made all the mistakes and he had to rewire the entire office building as he flips a burger. He says, some people think they can skip the fundamentals and jump straight to the advanced stuff. However, electricity doesn't care about your ego. If you do it incorrectly, the reality will teach you quickly. You know what the funniest part of this whole thing is? She rated you 1 out of 10 and still had to come crawling to you for 10 out of 10 grown man problem-solving skills. He pauses, then breaks into that specific grin that indicates he's about to deliver a perfect punchline. I laughed harder than I had in months. Sincere laughter. The sort that results from relief and the fulfillment of a job well done, since some moments don't require documentation. I then turned off my phone entirely and stored it in a drawer inside the house. It's better to simply live some experiences rather than perform them. The last revision to the comment section. Yes, she is still employed in retail. For those who are curious, indeed. It appears that she is doing well and has avoided social media altogether. No, her parents and I don't communicate frequently, but we do greet each other politely when we see each other in the community. No, I won't assist you with romantic retaliation or your own influencer issues, due to its proportionality, complete legality, and emphasis on natural consequences rather than punishment for punishment's sake. This strategy was successful. Act like adults in your own circumstances. Recognize the distinction between cruelty and justice. Establish limits. Keep a record of everything. Allow people to face the repercussions of their decisions without attempting to protect them from reality. Additionally, before you label someone your current victim online, you might want to reconsider. There are eyes on the streets, and occasionally those eyes are those of spreadsheet-savvy individuals